Hey there, everybody. It is Queen Sarah here to slay all your financial dragons. And with me today, I have a very wonderful guest. This is Kerry Harris. She is a serial entrepreneur, a brand strategist, and coach. She has faced investors head on and survived multiple times on many projects, including her own spooky adventures. After 25 years of working with big brands and big budgets, she now helps founders get their claws into fundraising through state-of-the-art investor decks and brand strategies. So give me a comment in the chat and help me welcome Kerry Harris. Woo-woo!
Thank you so much, Sarah. Wonderful to be here.
And what is your costume today?
Well, as I said earlier, I am a disaffected librarian.
That's perfect. Perfect for today. Okay, good.
Yes.
So today's topic is how to brew up a cauldron of capital to fund our fortunes. And Kerry is the perfect person to talk about this. For anyone who's just jumping on, has no idea why this financial advisor is wearing a crown or why we're being so goofy this week, I really wanted to throw a Halloween party for all my clients, but my clients are all across the US, and some of you guys are even in Canada. So I thought instead of trying to find a way to send candy over the internet, we would give away other fun things this week instead, because adults deserve to enjoy Halloween too. So we're doing 7 days of financial fun. It's called Witches of Wall Street, and you're joining us live. Thank you so much, everyone who's here on live. If you're watching the replay, comment replay. If you're here on live, you have to comment to win today's daily prize. And today's daily prize is awesome, guys. We took one of my more popular trainings, which is called this week it's called How to Brew Up a Cauldron of Capital. And Kerry added, what was it, Kerry? Like 5 or 6 pages to the already popular document. So you guys are going to get access to that for free today just by commenting on this live stream. So make sure you comment and show your affection and show your appreciation for Kerry being here with us today, okay? So without further ado, Kerry, I'm going to turn it over to you. Do you want me to share your slides?
Let's bring them up. That's perfect. So just as an addendum to what Sarah was saying, I want everyone to know that in the wonderful theme of Halloween week, fundraising is probably the most terrifying thing on the planet. And I hear that all the time. Yeah. So my company is called Sisu. Sisu is a Finn word, means perseverance in the face of all adversity. I love that word. My grandmother was Finn. And she was a most amazing example of someone who practiced Sisu on a daily basis. So someone said to me the other day, I want a Sisu t-shirt. And I'm thinking, hey, there's another revenue stream, Sarah. We'll get that
You
going.
Totally should.
I should. Yeah, absolutely. So I am a brand and business coach. And as Sarah said, I've worked with many of the world's best known and best loved brands. And my last full-time gig, when someone paid me to come to the office every day, I was president of Weber Shandwick Canada, which is a Canadian business unit of a huge global multinational. So since then, I actually label myself unemployable, and I entered into the wonderful world of strategic consulting. So we're going to talk today.
You're in the right room, Kerry. We're all unemployable.
We're all unemployable. I actually say that to people that I work with. You know, being unemployable is a wonderful thing. I would probably last, I'm going to say, 2 days in an office before they would actually fire me and they would send me home, because I wouldn't. I was good when I was running the show, and that was a wonderful way to be, but I don't think I could work for anybody anymore. So, but that's okay. I think we all find our calling. And interestingly enough, the people that I work with are typically subject matter experts, people who have a lot of experience in different areas, and they want to go from being an employee to a founder, and they're smart enough to know what they don't know. And so I work with them, and I help them create their brand and their business. And sometimes a big part of that is actually raising some money. So we're fully back to that terrifying topic, and it is terrifying. So just to give you some background, I've launched 3 technology companies, had to raise money for each one of them. And then I also do fundraising for clients. So help them build an investor deck that will actually land them financing and coach them in through that process, because it's not for the faint of heart. So anyway, let's go to the first slide.
Yeah, guys, I'm pulling out my notebook. I don't know about you, but it's time to take notes. She knows what she's doing. Okay, so
Yeah,
grab pen and paper. Let's go.
exactly. So here's the agenda today. We're going to run through it fairly quickly because I would really love to take questions. And we're going to go through the fundraising process, talk a little bit about how to build a brand for your business, and then really diving into the investor deck, which is a critical piece of this. And then I'm going to leave you with tips and tricks because there's lots of insider information that people need to know. So we'll go to the first slide.
All right.
Okay, I always start with this: if not now, when? If not me, then who? And so, all of you who are out there thinking, I have a great idea that I want to bring to life, or a burning passion that I want to bring to life, or I have a business and my business needs revitalizing, this is where I start. If not now, when? If not me, then who? And it's really important to keep that in mind. So, if you keep kicking it down the road, you're going to be 10 years older and you're still going to be in the same situation. And Sarah knows that because she actually works with entrepreneurs in getting them to a financially stable and actually financially advantageous place. So
Totally.
it's a good place to be. So let's move on. So a little bit about me. I gave you some background. I've spent most of my career working with brands, and now I get to work with the best people in the world. I left corporate life because I wanted to roll up my sleeves and work with founders. I spent a lot of my time in the last 5 years that I was working on a corporate side with my CFO. He was a great guy, used to buy me lunch all the time, but I didn't get to work with clients. So I like to think of myself as a brand anthropologist, and I've always been fascinated by what makes a consumer connect to a brand. Why do they buy your product or service, or why will they engage with you? And it actually is an art and a science. So I always say we all curate our lives, all of us, from the shoes we wear to the neighborhoods we live in to the cities we live in. We all curate our lives. And so if you can understand how to build a brand, then you have a foundation for an incredible business. So we'll move to the next slide. And if I'm talking too fast, say.
No, this is great. I'm just soaking it all in.
Yeah, exactly. So
guys, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. I see you have a few people on live, so feel free to ask questions. And remember, you cannot win today's prize if you don't comment on the live. So feel free to ask any question or just say, yeah, if you're getting this.
That's right, yeah. Anyway, so building legacy brands. Legacy brands are called love marks. And so I've worked on a number of love marks. These are brands that are embedded in people's lives. So I've launched and built 4 businesses. I started my entrepreneurial career when I was 32. My daughter was 2, and I launched my first business, which was a communications agency, and I went from there. So I sold that when I was 42, and then I moved on. So I've built 3 digital platforms after that. So mostly because I'm insane, but I do love to build things. So now I help people who love to build things build things. So planning to succeed is really the way that you need to start a business. This is a pragmatic. When you start a business, you're embarking on a pragmatic process. It's great to have a good idea, but if you can't land it, then you're not going to get out of the gate. So on the fundraising front, I've helped raise over $2 million for clients and over $2 million for my own new ventures. I have the scars to prove all of that. So let's dive in. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the fundraising process. A lot of people don't understand what the fundraising process looks like. So you can't actually just say, well, I'm going to reinvent this. You just can't. Unfortunately, really where you should be putting your effort is on actually raising funds as opposed to trying to adapt the fundraising process to you. It's not going to happen. It is what it is. So typically, and I'm going to say, okay, we're going to build a technology startup. I know you're not building a technology startup, but that's just an easy example to use. So we're going to build a technology startup. Well, where do you start? You have a great idea for a product. Maybe it's an app or a learning portal or whatever. You really need to start with a friends and family round. I'll tell you now today, investors will not give you money to build. They will not. So you cannot go to an outside investor until you go through a friends and family round. So this money is generally used to build a prototype or a beta, or in some instances, if say you're selling a product, then you're going to build a prototype of that product, and you're actually going to get your business set up for success. What has to happen is you need to build your prototype, or you need to open your storefront, or you need to launch your consulting business. You need to get it to market, and you need to test it out for proof of concept. Is someone going to buy my product or service? Typically in the friends and family round, the founder or founders, they either invest cash or sweat equity or both. Because future rounds, future investors really like to see that. They will ask you that in the next round. They will say, well, how much have you put into this? Because if you actually have not put anything into your business, they're not going to invest in you because they don't think you're serious. So if you're building a prototype or you're launching a consulting business, whatever it is you're launching, you have to build it fast and then try and break it. So you want to test it. You test and revise, test and revise. You need to make sure that your business idea or your concept is actually sound. The marketplace wants it. Proof of concept here is critical. So a friends and family round, this is where you literally go with your hat, your cap in hand, to your friends and your family, and you ask them for money. I know it's a tough thing. I know, it's very scary.
Cue spooky music.
I know. Most of us don't like to do this. We hate to ask for things, but if you want to launch a business, you need seed capital, and you probably don't have $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 in the bank. The first friends and family round I raised was $50,000 for a chat app that I was building called Chirp, and I learned a lot of lessons there. I found out who my friends were and who my friends weren't.
Painful.
I know it's
painful, but helpful.
It's very helpful. And the thing is that just because your friend doesn't invest in you doesn't mean they don't love you.
Totally.
So keep that in mind, okay? Don't hold it against them. They may not have the cash. They may not believe in your product, whatever it is. So, take the no's and move on. So literally what you're doing is you're going to friends and family and you're saying to them, will you contribute this amount of money to my startup? And you have to actually show them an investor deck. So you want to make sure that you do this in a business-like manner. And we're going to talk about that investor deck down the road here, but you want to make sure that you can demonstrate to them, yeah, I've thought this through. Now, one of the things I say here is that if your friends and family don't believe in you, maybe you need to rethink your idea. So if you go to 10 friends and family and you say to them, here's my idea, and all 10 of them say no, the good thing to do is go back to them and say, why did you say no? Now,
get that feedback.
Get the feedback. Get that feedback going. If they say to you, I don't have the money, 10 out of 10 say I don't have the money, then okay, that's one thing. But if 10 out of 10 say to you, I don't think this is going to work, you need to probe. You need to ask them why, and perhaps you need to pivot with your idea.
Now, can I ask a question there, Kerry?
Yeah.
Would you say, what percentage of the time would you say you need to adjust your pitch? And what percentage of the time would you say you need to adjust your offer? And how can you tell?
Well, what I have found is that first you do what I call small hub research, friends and family, and you say to them, why don't you want to invest? What don't you like about this? What could be improved? How could I do this differently so it would be attractive? Then what you do is you take it out to a wider circle, people who don't know you, and you test that concept. So your LinkedIn network, your Facebook network, put it on Instagram, whatever, and you get people who don't know you, but they'll give you really honest feedback. And then you can evaluate. So,
this is the same strategy that I teach inside the mini course that's available for free inside this Facebook group, which is that first stage of the mini course is about the validate stage business, but we approach validate from the marketing angle. And I love, Kerry, how you're approaching the same stage of business, which we call validate, from the funding angle. And I had never thought of that. It's like, it's the same process. It's just instead of looking at it from a marketing perspective, we're looking at it now from a funding perspective. And that's brilliant.
Bang on. So typically your friends and family round can be what's called convertible debt or equity. I always recommend convertible debt. In other words, what you're saying to your friends and family is, look, this is a loan. And I will give you the terms could be 2 years. I'll give you 10% interest on this loan. And then when I get to the next stage, I'll roll it over. I'll roll that convertible debt over into equity in the company, because then the company will have value. Right now, you have no value. If you give away equity, this is going to be expensive money. So I don't recommend it. And
Smart.
yeah, exactly. So let's go to the next slide in the fundraising process. So the next round is called the angel round. This is when you've built it, you've tested it, marketplace likes it, you maybe revised it a little. Then what you do is you do an angel round. So angel investors are small investors, typically under 2 million. And they like to see two things. They want to see a product that's built, or a concept or a service that's built out, and they want to see proof of concept. What they do is they act as a bridge between your friends and family and then your larger investors. And what happens typically in the process is the angel investors get bought out when you move into Series A round. So they know they're going to get taken out, and they're looking for kind of a modest return on investment. Typically, angels are what I call small E entrepreneurs, dentists, doctors, lawyers. They've had a business, sold it, have a little bit of cash. They're willing to take a little bit of risk, and so they come together. There are lots of angel groups. So I'm going to tell you how to find them. Google angel groups in my area.
Wow, complicated.
All kinds of them will come up, And one group that I actually have connected with is called Keiretsu, and they are a global group of angel investors. And you can actually pitch to the angels in their network. It costs about $5,000, but if you do it properly, you could pitch them. I don't recommend that you pitch them until you have a professional pitch deck. Trust me, I've pitched them in a speed round, and it is not for the faint of heart. You need to be prepared, and you need to have a kick-ass deck. So anyway, but they're there. So, and then once you get through the angel round, then your company will have a valuation, and there are a lot of accountants who do valuations. Ask Sarah, she'll know a whole bunch of them. And once you have a valuation, then you can go to a Series A round and beyond. A, B, C, D, E, F. Most companies now, like Uber is now at a Series F. So in other words, they keep going back and they get more and more and more and more money.
Yeah.
So Series A, probably what you're looking for. These are private equity groups, which is called outside money, family offices, or venture capitalists. Okay, so I'm going to say here, if you get to this point, that's fabulous. I applaud you. But you're now playing in the deep end, and don't go there without a life jacket or a lifeboat. Okay? Don't. These guys, and they're mostly guys, are brutal. So make sure you have an incredible lawyer on your team, an incredible accountant on your team. Make sure your team is tight before you actually go, because a lot of companies, founders, once they get into the Series A round, will find themselves out the door.
Wow.
Literally, you will be out the door because the venture
of your own company
that you may have spent 10 years building. Now, you may want to be out the door, but most founders don't. That's what could happen.
Yeah.
So the deal has to be structured properly. But anyway, we'll focus in on the first two rounds. So, okay, so let's go to the next slide. So now you know a little bit about the process. It's it's interesting. I find that that's half the battle, is understanding what the steps are and understanding the parameters. There's a lot of creativity and structure, but those are the parameters. Okay, now you know the process. Okay, so now you have to think about, okay, before I actually go into this, I really need to build a compelling brand, because you can't.
Yeah.
You have to go into this already having your brand nailed down. If you don't have your brand nailed down, then you need to stop at this particular point and say, okay. So before you start fundraising, you have to do some heavy lifting, and you need a brand and a brand story. So what's interesting about this is investors invest in founders. So it's important to note that. So if your new venture can own an authentic and data-driven space in the marketplace, you have a better chance of succeeding with an investor. They don't like muddy. Investors don't like muddy, and they play at a very high level. So if you're standing there, and I'm sure most of you have seen Shark's Tank or Dragon's Den or any one of those shows, and you see the sharks, and then you see the poor little
minnows.
They're standing there, and I think, why would you put yourself through that? Well, there's a couple reasons, but anyway, most of them really haven't thought through the brand, the business, anything. And of course, it's entertainment value. A friend of mine actually is executive producer of Dragon's Den here in Canada. And she says,
Oh,
we do
wow.
it. Yeah, we do it for sport. So anyway,
Yeah.
a well thought through and well supported brand can go a long way to inspiring confidence. So one of the things, if you do pick up the workbook, one of the things that I actually have on offer for the first 10 or 20, I think I said 20 people, I might do 2 groups, probably. I will do a free brand strategy workshop. So
Wow. And guys, just in case you're brand new, you have just jumped on this live and you're like, what's going on? The way to get that guide is you have to comment below, whether you're watching the replay or you're watching us live, or comment on the fun question that we had inside the Facebook group today, which I think was, what's your favorite Halloween family tradition? So if you comment on that post or you comment on this post, this live today, that's all you have to do to win this awesome guide that Kerry and I put together for you. So definitely let us know if you're interested.
Yeah, absolutely. So what does a solid brand strategy contain? Well, it talks about what makes your brand unique, how the brand is going to engage with end users and channel partners, how it's different from the rest of the competitors. I see a lot of Me Too brands, a ton of them. It's a veritable red ocean out there for most businesses. And then I see a brand that looks exactly like everybody else, and I think that business is not going to make it out of the first year, not going to make it out of the gate. What can your brand own on the brand landscape? And what users will get when they engage with your brand? So we'll go to the next slide.
Kerry, before we move on, I know a lot of questions that I usually get asked by entrepreneurs who get stuck right here on this step. Is it all right if I throw some questions at you, since you're
Sure.
the expert on the subject?
Yeah.
We're lucky to have you in the room. I don't want to waste it.
Yeah.
So the first question I get asked all the time is, I'm selling a widget that's exactly the same as all my competitors' widget, whether they're in network marketing or they just happen to be an affiliate or, something like that, where my product isn't what's different about my brand. What are some other examples that you've seen of ways we can differentiate our brand when what we're selling is exactly the same? Like for me, one of the many things I sell is life insurance. Well, there's a million other agents who could sell that same policy. So how do you recommend making a brand stand out?
So I'm going to use you as an example, Sarah, because this is a great question, and it's called a brand preference strategy. How do you build a brand when your brand is like everybody else's brand? So say you're Tide or Pantene shampoo. I mean, there's no difference between Pantene and Tide, none at all. So here's what you do. So in your case, you're selling insurance. There's 2 things that could set you apart. One, because it's the same thing. Insurance is insurance. One is the intellectual capital that you bring to the table. So you want to actually wrap that product in some added value. So some intellectual capital, a specific target audience. I specialize in life insurance for women, or I specialize in life insurance for vets, or I specialize in so one of 2 ways: wrap some intellectual capital around it, or be very specific about an audience. It's okay, you're selling the same product, but what you're saying is, I've walked in your shoes.
Yeah.
I know what's going on in your head. So there's one of 2 ways to actually do that. Now, we have, if you take a look at a brand like P&G, the Pantene shampoo, and I worked on Pantene. They were a client of mine at Weber. So how do we differentiate Pantene? Well, we actually created Pantene for 5 different types of hair. Same thing, shampoo, but we said, okay, you've got fine hair. This is the line extension. You've got curly hair. This is the line extension. See, so what they're doing is they're wrapping it in a differentiator that probably doesn't exist, but it sells the product.
Yeah. Niching down, I suppose. That's one way of putting it, right?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. So don't be all things to all people.
Right.
Pick a lane that's authentic to you and say, I'm going to build a brand in this particular lane.
And especially one that you can dominate. That's something I've heard. Is that something you would say is true? Is like, you've niched down enough when you can dominate that niche.
Exactly. So there's something I call the 10 immutable laws of marketing. There can only be 3 brands on the ladder at any given time.
Right.
There's a dominant brand, secondary brand, and what I call a brand ascending. So take a look at fast food, or we call it QSR. There's McDonald's, Burger King, and then there's a regional brand. So McDonald's
Yeah.
is the brand at the top of the ladder, Burger King is the second, and then there's a brand ascending depending on your regional, where you live. Could be In
Yeah.
Out, could be in Canada, here it's Harvey's, could be whatever it is.
Yeah.
So if your product is 9 miles from the ladder, then don't go in there. It's a veritable red ocean.
Yeah.
So then you have to actually pivot the brand, and you have to probably say, okay, my business vision is that I'm a micro entrepreneur in a specific market, and even though I'm selling a burger, I'm going to be part of the community.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to sponsor the Little League team. I'm going to give away free burgers at food shelter, whatever it is. Then, so that's how you sort of wrap that in a differentiator.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I know you wanted to move on to the next slide. Is now a good time for that?
Yeah. Let's do that.
Okay. That was great. Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, a little bit more about building a brand. I'm going to actually sort of top line this for you because I want to make sure we have a little bit of time for questions. So I said before, investors invest in founders who they believe in and connect with. So it takes time to find that sweet spot. The average active investor takes 15 meetings a day when they're looking for new products. So out of the gate, all you have is the potential of your company, and believe it or not, eventually your brand will have value, which can be recognized on the balance sheet if you build your brand strong right at the beginning. So a friend of mine just went through a fundraising process. He was looking to raise $3 million. This is a guy who's exited a company, sold a company, worked for Twitter, worked for Coinbase, he's an experienced tech guy. He went through 73 investor meetings in order to raise $3 million. That's how many meetings he had to go through. So anyway, let's move on to the next section. So you got your brand built out, and then we're going to move to next slide, which is just a little bit of a deeper dive, and I call it doing the heavy lifting, or how do I actually get the money? So you have to create the sharpest, most precise investor deck on the planet. Okay, this is where you actually need to hire a professional, and if nothing else, you need to hire a professional graphic designer, because this needs to look really, really good. So step one, you've already done the heavy lifting. You got your brand plan together. You know your USP, your unique selling proposition. You know your CVP, which is the consumer value proposition, and you've created a brand story and a brand promise. Okay, so that's step one. Now we'll go to the next slide.
Okay.
Step two, identify your why. Why are you launching this product or service? Most people know what they're going to do and how they're going to do it, but you need to identify why you're doing it. So Simon Sinek writes a great book called The Power of Why. I recommend you read it. It's a really great book. When you think about brands are functional and emotional. We like to think we buy on functional, but we don't. We're human beings. We buy on emotional. Microsoft versus Apple. Which one's the more popular and sexy company? I don't even have to answer that, do I? That's the why. You need to get into your competitive set. Who's already out there and what do they own? And I recommend you get an advisory board together. So this is a non-paid advisory board. Who do you know in your network can help you with the areas that you just aren't good at? Whether it's finance, marketing development, whatever the gaps are. And get that advisory board together. It can be short, it can be a small group, 2 or 3 people, but they will actually help you get your head in the game. And I recommend you do that. So again, this is all the heavy lifting. And then put a short list together of potential investors, and then ask your advisory board for some future introductions. That's how you can leverage them. So that's a little bit about the heavy lifting. And then we're going to move to the next slide, which is actually, there's more heavy lifting.
Woo, we better go to the gym before we start this process.
A lot of heavy lifting. Anyway, sorry. I forgot the most important thing. You have to create a business plan. So this is the part where most people absolutely fall apart. This is where people call me and say, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm into the deep water. I don't know what I'm doing. And I say, it's okay. We can do this. You create a business plan. And the business plan doesn't have to be 9,000 pages, done by an MBA grad, etc. The business plan needs to include your business model, the business vision, revenue targets, your marketing plan, your development or road to launch plan. So it has to have those components. And then it needs to speak to your investor strategy going forward. So I have actually examples of great business plans. So I think what we'll do is in one of the sessions we put together, and maybe Sarah, we could do this together. We can put that investor business plan together, a fundraising business plan together. So
yeah, we could totally add that as a bonus, or
yeah,
we'll talk.
We'll talk. Yeah. So anyway, so that's step 3 of the heavy lifting. Now we're going to move to the investor deck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. I say the investor deck. Ta-da. We made it. You made it all the way through here. So
Woo! This
is where people fall over. So my first investor deck was 220 slides. I was so proud of it. I finished it. It was like, it had 49 addendums. It was amazing. This is for Chirp.
Wow.
200. And then one of my advisory group members who had exited a company said to me, okay, now make it 12 pages. I thought I was going to die.
Short but sweet.
Short but sweet. Okay. Rule of thumb, 12 pages, get through it in under 20 minutes. Okay, go. All right. That's it. If you go to an investor with 220 pages, he will actually throw you out the door. So this
good to know.
Good to know. This will cause you to be incredibly brief. So here's the 12 pages. And this is such a simple script. And interestingly enough, this will actually cause you to seriously think and dive deep and squeeze hard on your business. Because if you can't write this, you're not ready to go and get fundraising. So first page, the marketplace opportunity or problem that you'll solve. Okay. Do not start an investor deck by how great you are or how big the total available market is. Never, 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 never. At that point, I've actually seen investors at the Keiretsu Forum. I've seen investors actually just literally shut somebody down. It's really sad. It really,
like you said, it can be vicious. I mean, they don't want their time wasted, right? Mm-hmm. That's the truth.
No, they do not. So the marketplace opportunity or problem you'll solve, how are you going to take advantage of that opportunity to solve the problem? That's your business. Ta-da, that's your business. What makes you uniquely qualified to do so? You have to be able to answer this question. What is your business model or your revenue model? What are the milestones that you're going to face within your business? And we'll go to the next slide. So that's the first 5 questions you have to answer. Here's the last 7. Describe your competitive set. How will you be better or different than them? I usually recommend you make a chart, list all the features or attributes, and you actually go through them. You have to understand what the marketplace looks like. What's your marketing strategy? What's your road to launch plan? And who's on your team? This is where you leverage your advisory board. And you say, there's me, CEO, chief cook, bottle washer, garbage taker outer.
Right.
And, parent on the weekend or in the evening. Right. Who's on the team? List your advisory board. Advisory boards get good kudos. What do the pro formas look like? This is a snapshot of your financial model. It's blue sky at this point, total blue sky, but you have to get it down. And then what is
now? Can we pause there for a second? Because I know a lot of people who might be watching this may be kind of new to business. Mm-hmm. Can we define pro forma? Because I know you and I, that's like old news, but I think for a brand new entrepreneur, they may have never even seen one.
Yeah, exactly. So a pro forma really is a financial snapshot of your business. So what you do is you take a year and on the top, you write down expenses month by month and you list your expenses. So there might be manufacturing and marketing and accounting and legal. So list the expenses all across the top month by month. And then, well, actually, you could do that on the bottom because it helps to start with revenue on the top.
I was going to say, I usually put revenue at the top, but that's just
revenue
me.
At the top, revenue at the top. And you try and guess, because that's the only way that you're going to do this, guess at how much product you're going to sell every month.
Right.
Across the top for the first year. theoretically, you should be able to do this for years 1, 2, and 3. But, let's start simple here. So even if you
guesstimating,
let's
though.
guesstimate, So you have your revenue stream across the top, and if there's multiple revenue streams, list them. One from merchandise, one from events, one from whatever. And then on the bottom, list your expenses. And then at the bottom of that, every month, you list your profit or loss. And at the end of the year, you should have a short synopsis at the bottom of revenue versus expenses, profit, and then you'll have this great financial snapshot. And trust me, it's not going to be pretty your first year. And investors are not expecting it to be pretty.
Right. Yeah, you don't need to fake it. Like, really show them how long you're planning to take before your business is in the black. I did one of these, Kerry, just a few months ago. I guess half a year ago now, for the family and friends round that we did for the Pemberley farm out here in Kansas City, which is the 16-acre farm that I bought to renovate to turn into a Airbnb, wedding venue, and a wellness retreat. So we bought this farm on our own dime, but then we're like, okay, great, let's do a friends and family round to raise funds to renovate, because it's a big project. So I put one of these together, and yeah, guys, like, the first year I was not planning to show any profit, and there wasn't any to show, right? Predictably. But there was revenue, though, right? And so by proving that, like, look, we, even while under construction with none of the spaces completed, we still had revenue. That actually looks pretty promising to some investors, right?
Absolutely. No, investors are not expecting you're going to be profitable year one. Most businesses aren't.
Right.
What they want to do is they want to see, and then you have what I call assumptions on the pro forma. And those are assumptions. Those are notes that you usually put on the bottom of it saying, this revenue stream assumes sales, of XYZ widget at $4.99, starting month 6. Like you have to kind of give them a little bit more of a snapshot. They're called assumptions. So yeah, most investors are not. They want to know that what they're looking for is that you understand what the road to launch and road to success looks like.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So, and it's a good learning curve for you. If you're not a finance, if you're not a finance person, then again, look for an advisor who's a finance person.
I know a few.
Exactly. Sarah can help you with that. So anyway. So ultimately, the last slide 11 is, what's the ask? What are you asking them for? You have to actually say, we're looking for $300,000, and that will buy you 10% of the company. And then you can note the valuation, or we're looking for whatever it is you're looking for. And then the important thing about the ask and offer is that you think it through, and that you can answer the question, okay, well, if you're asking me for $300,000 and I get 10% of the company, then what you're saying is the company is valued at $3 million. So, how do you justify that valuation? So you have to be prepared to answer those kind of questions. You say it's, I'm looking for $10,000 convertible debt, 2 years. I'll give you 12% on it, and then if you roll it over after 2 years, we can pay it out. Or if I roll it over, then it buys, and there's an upside on the equity. And maybe you get the equity plus another 5%, whatever the upside is, because you want to reward your early investors. So that's typically how that works. So you finish with the ask or the offer, and then you actually need to be really clear about, when does this round close? Very clear. Closes on October 31st, 2023. You have to be clear about that, because you want to create some sense of urgency. The other thing that you want to put on the ask offer is use of proceeds. What are we going to use these funds for? Right. Investors will ask you. You might as well actually lay that out. So, and then the last slide is really, how can they reach you? And then you tell them, we have a detailed marketing plan. We have in-depth financials. We have a detailed business plan. Those are all addendums, and you'll send them to them if there is interest. And there you have it. So
Wonderful.
so that's the investor deck. And then the last slide really is a little bit of a couple of tips and tricks. And I know we're running out of time, but I do want to we'll run through.
Yeah, let's go. Let's dive in.
Yeah, so you need a thick skin. I'm going to tell you this right now. You're going to get lots of, nah, not interested. If you take that personally, then you shouldn't be embarking on this. You'll get 100 no's for every one yes. You have to be resilient. So I said before, don't start your investor deck with about how great you are. Investors don't care how great you are. Really, to them, you have no track record. Unless you're Elon Musk and you've exited 49 companies and you're a billionaire, then you could say how great you are. But you're probably
right. And at that point, you probably don't need to.
You don't need to. Although I'm going to tell you, Elon Musk is still raising money for all of his ventures. A good entrepreneur never spends their own money.
Yes.
Once you're successful,
100%.
Never spend your own money. You always use other people's money. Don't exaggerate the total available market and what you're going to own. The total available market is how big your category is. So if you say, well, I'm going to launch a lipstick, and the lipstick marketplace is like a $40 billion marketplace, don't say after a year we're going to own 10% of that. That's crazy. That's amateur hour. An investor will shut you down. Rehearse before you pitch. Anticipate every possible question. Communicate from the overlap. Understand what the investor invests in. So if you're a technology company, don't go see real estate investors. Okay, there's no overlap.
Yeah.
If you're a consumer good, go to investors who invest in consumer goods. It'll be easier selling. So know who you're talking to. Be prepared to get grilled. They will be relentless, but if they're grilling you, it means there's some interest. So that's good. You'll never get a yes at a pitch meeting. I've never seen it in all the years that I've been doing this. So be prepared to provide extensive documents before you ever get a check. So consult with a lawyer before you sign any agreement with an investor. Do not sign an agreement without doing that. And then what happens after that is you'll get what's called a letter of intent, and then you'll get a letter of agreement. So that's kind of the process. So there you have it. That's the tips.
Cool.
As we slide down, and I apologize for this. That was on me that we were late this morning. I was having
a
moment.
Let's take a few minutes to do some Q&A. Is that all right? We have quite a few questions.
Sure.
I've got them in the Facebook group. So first question I got was, what's the best way to learn negotiation?
Well, here's the thing, and I'm going to be blunt with you. When you have an investor in a room and you're looking to raise money and this is your first time, there is no negotiation going on. So it's not going to happen. So if you get an offer, that will be the offer. It's not like buying a house. An investor will just say to you, here's what I'm willing to give you, take it or leave it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good to know. This one's interesting. How to find a professional or coach to practice investor pitch. Oh, I think the question is, how do I find a professional or coach to practice my investor pitch?
Well, here's the thing. If you're going to hire a professional or a coach, someone like me, then you should hire them at the beginning of the process and work with them all the way through it. If you've done all that work, it means you have some of those skill sets. What I recommend you do is you go to one of your advisors.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Good. I have a few more that came in through email. Do I need to make a certain amount in the family and friends round before trying angel?
There's no set amount you need to raise. It's actually more about how much money do you need to get your business to that angel round point. So you may need $1 million. You may need 50,000. So how much is your prototype? What's it going to cost to set up the infrastructure? What's it going to cost to get the development done? It's actually more around what is the minimum amount of money. It's called bootstrapping, the minimum amount of money that you need to get your business ready to launch or out of the gate, and at least proof of concept. It varies.
Okay. This next one, Kerry, might be one that you'll want me to answer, but it's up to you. What about if you're a nonprofit? Can you still get investors?
No.
Yeah. Guys, I do teach how to fundraise for a nonprofit.
Yeah.
I've raised $2.5 million for various nonprofits over the last few years. So I'm doing a workshop. I've been asked to speak actually at a workshop that's happening next Saturday, but it's here in Kansas City. I don't know if it'll be recorded. If it is, I'll drop it in the group. But if not, I have a separate Facebook group that's just for volunteers and nonprofit leaders where I teach fundraising. So if you want the link to that, just drop it in the comments and I'll just say, please send me the link to the fundraising group.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'll tell you guys how to get funding for a nonprofit. If you have a mission focused or passion project type of business and it's not actually a nonprofit, like if your business is just happens to have a very mission driven purpose, you can still get fundraising. But when you're structured legally as a nonprofit, no, you're not going to find angel investors because like there's no profit and therefore they won't ever have a return.
That's right. Yeah. So not-for-profits and charities get donors, as Sarah is saying. They don't get investors. And you have to be really, really careful from a brand perspective or a communications perspective. If you are a purpose-driven company and you are a for-profit, you have to be very clear to your customers and your clients and your constituents or stakeholders that you are a for-profit business. Because
that's right.
To not do that is really disingenuous, and you will get anything you will have built will be just leveled.
That's right. And so, to answer your question fully, you absolutely can get funding for a nonprofit, but you cannot get investors, and you wouldn't follow the same strategy that Kerry just taught. Okay, here's another good one, Kerry.
Sorry to interrupt you, Sarah.
Yeah.
You would follow the same strategy for building out your brand. So I'm like you, Sarah, and I work on the other side. And I work with lots of not-for-profits on building a better brand that resonates with donors. So I agree 100%. With you. Like a little bit of that you can use.
Thank you for that correction because you're 100% right. Yeah, guys, the branding has to be just as nailed down to find good donors for a nonprofit as it does to find good investors for profit. So great point. Okay, here's the next one. We have just two more, Kerry, if you have time.
No.
One was where can I get a copy of the business plan? Okay, guys, so Kerry and I will meet and we'll figure out how we're going to offer you guys that business plan. The next question was, can you give me samples of how that differs from a business evaluation? Okay, so in my coaching program, Kerry, I teach something I call a business evaluation, which is where we graph the KPIs so we can see the statistics and how they find things that correlate, right? So if I focus on this KPI, it makes that one go up, and we do things like that. And I call that a business evaluation. So they're asking, how is a business plan different? So one thing I will say, guys, is typically a business plan is being done before you have a business, whereas a business evaluation is when you already have a business, you already have some KPIs or statistics you have some productivity occurring and you're trying to boost that productivity. You'll do a business evaluation. Do you have anything else to say about that, Kerry? Any differences between evaluating your existing business's growth and
you're bang on. And so what's interesting, and here's the corollary to that, is that when you go into an angel round, those KPIs are critical. So an angel investor will ask you, what's your cost of acquisition? So your COA. They'll ask you what your LVC is, your lifetime value of a customer, what your cost to convert is. Like those KPIs that Sarah's talking about, it's critical if you are going to the next round in an angel round that you understand and have done a business evaluation, because those are key markers to get angel money. So it's very functional, and you're bang on that.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I get a lot of pushback from certain clients. Guys, you know who you are, for keeping track of your KPIs. It's so important because it's kind of like steering a car blind if we don't have those, if we don't use them, right?
Exactly.
So
and
important.
That's how investors judge you against other investments. So if your cost of acquisition is $10 and they're looking at another another investment opportunity and their cost of acquisition is $4, well, they're putting $1 million in. It's a no-brainer. It's like a black and white comparison. So you have to understand those, and that's where you have to get savvy about them.
Totally.
Yeah.
Numbers savvy is so key. All right. Well, Kerry, we appreciate you coming on live today so much. Thank you so much for your valuable time and for all this amazing information.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, once again, for everybody who commented a question, or even if you just comment, thank you, yay, hooray, hashtag replay, anything you comment at all will qualify you for today's giveaway, which is a beautiful workbook that Kerry and I collaborated on to make really, really valuable for you, teaching you how to actually get funding for your business. So thank you again, Kerry, and we hope we will see you back here again soon.
So much fun. And you know what? Stay the course, everybody, because you can get there. Okay. And I hope to see you again. Thanks, Sarah. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.